Welcome, everyone, to A Call for Judgment. If you haven't heard this story, this is more end-time type prophecy, more bizarre things happening, more crops being killed. You could look at it from whatever perspective you want, but if you haven't heard, there is an infestation of Mormon crickets that have descended on Nevada and are wreaking havoc. And I'm going to show you the news clip, and it's pretty frightening how many there actually are. Now, we can look at this and we could say that this is something that God is sending down to the earth. I mean, we know that the Bible talks about locusts and famines and things of that nature, but crickets aren't locusts. Locusts are actually a form of grasshopper, but this is something where more and more people are starting to see all of these crazy things that just continually happen. We've seen all the fish that have washed up in certain seas around the world. Now we're seeing things like this happen. And of course, it just conveniently happens to be that these Mormon crickets are descending on a lot of the vegetation and the crops. So that also factors in very much so to something that they could be doing, that they could be sending out. And I know a lot of you get mad at me because I give too much credit to the enemy quite often. And I think it's something that I struggle with because I kind of look at it, these people as so wicked that there's nothing that's out of the realm of possibility for them to do to humanity. But I do understand that God is in control. But this is a story nonetheless that you need to see. So take a look what's happening in Nevada.
Well, there is an infestation of Mormon crickets happening in Elko, Nevada, a few hours just west of Salt Lake City. Today, the Elko County Commission discussed the issue. It looks like there's plenty to talk about here. Fox 13 News reporter Darian DeBrule got a firsthand look and spoke to residents about the thousands of crickets.
It's gross.
Elko, Nevada is a quiet town, which is why the sound of thousands of Mormon crickets being crushed by tires seems so loud.
It's like the popcorn noise underneath your tire. And then the smell is extremely bad. It smells like dead fish. And then, affecting my race car driving for it to be slick is also obviously a big hit. We don't have a lot to do around here, so that's something we look forward to. So to have crickets ruining it is really awkward.
Tiana Damon says the crickets have made Elko their home, taking over parking lots, porches, and plants.
The little bit of vegetation we can have out here in Elko, they're gonna eat it all.
If a band moves into a crop that they happen to like, they can do some severe damage. As they're out just on the regular land, they'll eat the forage that would be available for other animals out there.
Nevada State entomologist Jeff Knight says Mormon crickets are cyclical creatures. The last outbreak in northern Nevada was around 2006.
This go-around started about 2019. We expect populations to be high for 4 to 6 years, and then they'll drop back down again, and we won't see them. The populations around just south of Elko are fairly high.
Although crawling is their only mode of transportation, they move from place to place faster than one might think.
They'll move up to a mile a day. So very often crickets may come into an area, be there for 2 or 3 days, and move on.
We live clear over the summit, so we live about 10-15 minutes away from here, so hopefully they don't make it that way.
They might not be able to be completely removed right now, but Knight says there are things people can do to mitigate them.
You can treat with chemicals. We recommend using a bait rather than just spraying for them.
In Elko, Nevada, Darian DeBrule, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Oh, no.
Let's bring this one back.
Don't, please.
Your eye is almost like you're thinking, are my eyes deceiving me? What am I looking at there?
They just need to paint that place, right?
Yeah, just paint it. You've got some
What
sort of...
are those?
What are those?
Oh, no.
Mormon crickets.
Look at that.
Mike. So many of them. I mean, so many.
Why
all
are they
over the
crawling on the walls?
That's
what I'd like. What are they finding? Are they looking for ways to get in? I mean,
I hope not.
It's like a Wes Craven horror movie.
That's exactly what it looks like. Thank you to Courtney O'Connor for braving the outside
thanks,
of this
Courtney.
hospital.
Thanks.
So even the USA Today is covering this, talking about parts of Nevada being overrun by an explosion of flightless, ground-dwelling, cannibalistic, insect-creating nightmares of biblical proportions. Business and residents said they are battling millions of Mormon crickets that descended on the state this week in an effort to save land and morale. This is happening, as you heard, in Elko, Nevada, a city in northeastern Nevada, south of the Idaho border. Crickets coverage Monday covering roads, vegetation, and even local hospital walls. Multiple media outlets are reporting. Just to get patients into the hospital, we had people out there with leaf blowers, with brooms. At one point, we even had a tractor with a snowplow on it just to push the pile of crickets and move them on their way. So this is obviously a pretty insane story if you look at it. I mean, you, again, can look at it from whichever perspective you want. You can look at it as God sending this down, and God sending a plague, or God sending a famine, or you can look at it from them, because we know how hell-bent they are on controlling the food supply chain. That's what you're seeing with the fires going on, with, you know, all of a sudden all this smoke that's descended on the northeast coast, or northeast, I should say. And then, of course, conveniently, it hasn't rained in weeks. Suddenly it's raining, so it's pretty much raining down this acid, sulfur from the sky pretty much all over crops and things of that nature. So native to the western North America, the crickets populations are cyclic over many years, and some residents in the mini metropolis of just over 20,000 people are not pleased with their return. They're just gross, they said. They look like spiders. They tend to poop everywhere. And these things in size are about 3 inches long, which is pretty big. I mean, if you think about it. So according to the University of Nevada in Reno, Mormon crickets can grow larger than 2 inches and are found in rangelands west of the Missouri River and across all of Nevada. They eat perennials, grass, shrubs, and crops, subsequently reducing feed for grazing wildlife and livestock. So that's where you can look at this from the other standpoint of them unleashing these things, right? We remember the story a couple years ago with Bill Gates, and the mosquitoes they were releasing in Florida, these GMO mosquitoes. Well, it's awfully convenient with all of the things that are happening around the world, with famines, with food shortages, with supply chain shortages, that this specific thing, the Mormon cricket, is being, it's suddenly as you saw in the pictures and the videos, there's trillions of these things all over the place, and they're not just feeding on crops, they're grazing the wildlife and the livestock too. So they're damaging the livestock, which we know is obviously part of their agenda, is to go after livestock any way they can. They don't want you to have beef. They don't want you to have poultry. They want you to live off of bugs. Okay, they're telling you it has something to do with carbon emissions. It's really just utter insanity. So the insects are not true crickets, but are shield-backed, short-winged I'm not going to say it right, but katydids that resemble the grasshoppers that cannot fly, according to the university. Adult Mormon crickets have long antennae and a shiny exoskeleton in a wide array of colors and patterns. And since they're Mormon crickets, I guess they're also Masonic crickets. In mass quantities, their feeding contributes to soil erosion, poor water quality, nutrient-depleted soils, and other land damage. So when you hear those sentences, you again can look at it and you could say, okay, well, we know that they want to deplete soil. We know that they, obviously we could look at Monsanto and all that stuff, but in the case of a lot of the stuff going on with the chemtrailing, they're destroying a lot of soil. People aren't able to grow unless they have some type of greenhouse. We know that they're sun shielding and blocking the sun, so people aren't able to grow crops. And then on top of that, of course, we know that they want to affect the water supply. That's what we saw with all the train derailments, right? We saw trains exploding, derailing all over the country, barely getting covered in the mainstream media, of course, and then them telling us that the water quality was good. Meanwhile, people are uploading videos from their backyards, from streams, from lakes, where you could literally see just puddles of chemicals in the water, pretty much making the water undrinkable. So again, the most important thing for them to be able to control, in order to control us, is the food supply and the water supply, right? So if they can deplete soil, and they can do it in ways like this, they just look at us and they go, oh, well, this is just, what's going on right now with the wildfires is it's climate change. It's just natural. Oh, what's going on with the Mormon crickets? Oh, that's just natural, right? Because if you saw Joe Biden and you saw Henry Kissinger and you saw Nancy Pelosi with flamethrowers standing in in the middle of a field that's growing crops, well, maybe people would finally do something about it. So again, they use boogeymen. They use all sorts of different techniques that they create. And remember, people are not familiar with Plum Island, which is no longer located where it used to be, which is now in Kansas, of course, because conveniently Plum Island, which is responsible for Lyme's disease, because that's where they created Lyme's disease, embedded it in ticks, and then sent it out into the world. Well, conveniently, after doing all the experiments they did on Plum Island on food and animals, they decided to move Plum Island to pretty much one of the main places in America where we grow crops, which is Kansas, right? How convenient that they would do that. So we know they experiment with insects. They experiment with, they genetically modify the insects and do all sorts of things with it because they can get away with it. They know they can just go, this is tinfoil hat stuff. These people talking about bugs and insects, that we're sending it out into the world. Meanwhile, there's tons of, again, the same names pop up. Soros, Gates, the amount of funding that they put into creating genetically modified mosquitoes and other, insects. And you just go, well, what would they be doing that for? I mean, what Bill Gates grew up, he was a dork, but he grew up, into insects so much. He's putting millions of dollars into that. He's putting millions of dollars into graphene technology. He's putting millions of dollars into owning farmland. He's putting millions and billions of dollars into sun shielding. He's putting millions and billions of dollars into putting magic potions. I mean, how many things do people need to see the people who are obviously responsible for all of the carnage that's going on in the world right now? Not to mention the psychological carnage that they create on the news every single night. So I'll continue here with the Mormon crickets prefer drought conditions and can cause substantial economic losses to rangeland, cropland, and home gardens. So again, home gardens, another thing they want to target, right? I covered that community garden thing. Remember, some of you should remember, it was a few months ago, or maybe it was like 6 months ago. I covered the community gardens. What that is they're trying to get people to register their home gardens, right? So if you have a garden in your backyard, even if you're just growing tomatoes and just a small amount of stuff, they want you to register it. So they'll tell you, oh, it'll be a tax exemption or it'll be this or that. And they want to monitor who's growing food because they're going to plan on coming and taking it because they're going to tell you that you need to share all your food with all the insane liberal people who are responsible for the collapse of our society, right? And they're going to give it to all those people and they're going to take it away from you and they're going to tell you you can't grow a home garden because it's not fair, right? So in addition to that, like the article just said, substantial economic losses, right? Part of another agenda. So you see all the things that are tying into this. It says this is particularly true as adults and nymphs of Mormon crickets migrate in a band, eating plants along their paths. The Nevada Department of Agriculture did not immediately respond to USA Today. And I mean, they go on to talk about how this is possibly going to spread into Utah. Okay, so they're saying that Utah, and they're even saying that it could spread into Montana and it could spread into Idaho. So we'll see what ends up happening. But I mean, this is warfare all over the place. And I used to do videos talking about silent war. And people are just like, what's the silent war? Unless, they were already awake. And silent warfare is what's going on. I mean, it could be something as minimal as war on your teeth and putting soft metals in your mouth to doing all of these things with chemtrailing, what they're doing with the atmosphere, what they're doing with people being able to farm, what they're doing with controlling the soil and Monsanto, all of this stuff. It's silent war. Because you can't hold anyone accountable for it, even though we know who's responsible for it. And we should be able to hold them accountable. But they just go, oh, you can't. There's no connection to me. I'm not doing anything wrong. Oh, I'm doing this with insects. Oh, I'm doing this with soil. Give me a break. Right? The people need to literally see these people out there with machetes chopping up crops for them to even maybe blink and say, okay, there's probably something going on here. And even then, they probably would defend Gates and all these other guys. Right? Like they already defend them owning all the farmland, and they even defend our government giving farmland to China. So it just shows you that these people are completely insane. They're completely submissive to the debauchery and the perversion and all the disgusting stuff that our government is doing. And they're on board with it because they're completely under mind control. So these are the crickets. Let me know what you think in the comment section about this story. Obviously, again, I tell you these stories so you can see these things. You can make your own opinion on it. This channel isn't to lecture you. I tell you how I feel about these things. Am I right a lot of the time? Yeah. Am I wrong sometimes? Yeah. I'm probably more right than wrong, but I'm definitely wrong sometimes. So you could look at this and you could say, oh, I believe God is actually sending this down because look at what's going on here, as in the days of Noah and this absolute nightmare that is North America, what they've turned it into. I mean, God has got to be, I can't speak for God, but I would imagine that God is sickened by what he sees. And it's a sickening time to be alive. So let me know what you think in the comment section. I thank everyone for being here. God bless all of you and your families.